You do not need confidence. And I think focusing on that is the wrong direction. And confidence is going to come with time and dedication on a specific craft. Just focus on being brave and taking those steps when you don't feel confident. Like, I didn't feel confident for years and years. I still struggle with it now. But what you really need to focus on is courage.
Welcome to Going Places, hosted by illustrator and author Natalie Byrne. This is a podcast aimed to give you clarity on your creativity because you, my friend, are going places.
Welcome back to another episode of Going Places. Thank you so much for all the lovely feedback on the podcast coming back so far. Wow, my legs hurt. I did another half marathon. I will say there was a big gap between my last half marathon and this one. But wow, I did the Marlow half marathon and I did not do my recovery plan afterwards. I did like 5 minutes of stretching and then someone asked me to take a photo of them and I got completely distracted. I did get a sports massage. My legs are painful. That was like the hardest run I have ever done because there was so many hills. And honestly, there was a moment I thought I was going to pass out because I couldn't regulate my breathing. And I was so... When that happened, I was like, right, I'm just not even going to look at the time. I'm not going to be focusing on my speed. I'm just going to try and like get my breathing back, which means like I need to slow down. And I like made a point to not look at my time at all. And then I had, I saw the like sign for 600 meters left. And I was like, I think I can use as much energy as I've got. And I think I remember people saying that there was one more hill and that was the last one. So once we got through that, I was like, okay, I've gotten through it. Like the rest felt quite downhill. And I really sprinted the last 600 meters and my time was 2 hours and a half, which is pretty wild because I was finding it extremely hard. And I wasn't paying attention to my pace or anything. I was really just trying to slow down and get my breathing under control. And the Battersea half that I did was very, very flat. And I got 2 hours and 23 minutes. So the fact that I was telling everyone my estimate I was giving myself like half an hour extra for the hill. That's my little running update. I've also got my mug that I'm drinking my coffee out of. I have a few of these still available on my store. It says, today is a new day full of possibility. And if you want to know what a mug looks like after years of camping with it and dishwasher use, it still looks great. Like the color is still there. And I love these mugs for camping as well if you're an avid camper because they're enamel and they're so light. Look at me promoting my products. I'm really excited about this episode. I have a guest today, and really the point of my investing time into this personal project, which is this podcast, was because I found so many times I was at the pub with some friends or at an event and met some new friends, and we would have these conversations that I just feel like I was like, someone should be recording this. I'm blessed with meeting so many amazing creative people who have given me such wonderful advice and who inspire me and keep me going. And I've said it 1,000 times that I wouldn't continue being a creative if it wasn't for the creative community. And I also acknowledge that that's like a massive privilege through being in the city. Really feel like that the kind of sideways mentorship, I like to call it, which is kind of people of your own age and people in your own community, has like they've been like the biggest teachers and mentors in my life, so, and my creative life, and also I just wanted an excuse to also meet other people that I found really interesting, rather than like we should go for coffee sometime. I'm like, we should record a podcast sometime. And yeah, I definitely feel like post-COVID, so many of my friends kind of in London moved out of London, and so many of my friends also went into full-time employment and stopped freelancing and kind of went on to new chapters of their life. And I just felt like my own little creative community that I came up with was kind of like non-existent. I just had this like big thirst and desire to kind of almost rebuild my own creative circle again, because it kind of became a bit fragmented post-COVID and the cost of living crisis. I think I have my own internal struggles on continuing this thing, and I also have seen so many amazing creatives give up on their dream because they are hit with knocks time and time again, or they just want a new chapter and they want a new challenge and they want more stability financially. That's a massive reason why I wanted to like put effort into making my podcast. So yeah, I'm so excited to share this episode with you. But before we get into it, I just kind of wanted to do a little chat, a little ramble, a little update, and also some things I've been thinking of when it comes to creativity before we get into the lovely guest episode. I've been thinking a lot about confidence, and actually a lot of people don't know this, I'm realizing, but not that everyone needs to know every single thing about me, but you know, maybe I should introduce myself if you're not aware of me. My name is Natalie Byrne. I'm an illustrator. I have made some books. I've worked with some of my dream clients. I also am a creative coach, and I go into universities. I've done workshops because I'm just so obsessed with creativity and the kind of psychology behind creativity. And one of the biggest topics I talk about when I've done workshops and what people kind of hire me for is creative confidence, because it's been a subject that I've talked about from a long time ago actually, and it has been my biggest struggling point at the start of my career specifically, where being working class, being Latina, being someone who never saw myself anywhere represented, and also being kind of told, like not being able to kind of relate to any of my kind of idols and people in the creative industry that I really like looked up to and respected, and still feeling like I was very like on the outside looking in. And obviously that has a massive thing to do with representation. I also think many different working class people are different, but my experience with my class, I suppose, is I was always surrounded by people that really didn't believe in themselves. They didn't talk to themselves in a nice way, that would never put themselves out there, that would say they want to do 100,000 things, but would never do it because they're like, well, I don't feel good enough, or I don't feel confident enough. I'm just not that kind of person that can just like be outgoing like that. My parents are very like shy, reserved people, to the point where they would never stand up for themselves and let people walk all over them. And the only reason I was able to kind of even go full time as an illustrator, even choose creativity to do it, I think I've been very blessed and lucky to be around friends from all 8 stages of my life that were doing their creative passions. And from, you know, that could range from when I was a teenager and seeing all my friends kind of being in bands, and to college and university where I was around a lot of people that were so passionate about graphic design and so hardworking, and all of that kind of energy like really rubbed off on me. And I feel like I'm such a sum of all the people that I've like bonded with over creativity in my life, who maybe came from different classes, where I had access to their family and to their parents. And when I had a bad day in my business, there were many times where some of my friends would put me on the phone to their dad who ran a business. They were like, you know what, you're a business, you just got to treat it like a business. If things go wrong, you have to like approach it the way like any of these big companies would. And I just learned so much from all the kind of people that I've met along the way, that alone is a huge privilege. Obviously people might be surprised that I'm working class because of this accent, but you know, that happens a lot with immigrant families, that they really want, there is kind of like such a internalized fear about kind of being the class you are, that it was kind of, I suppose, beaten in me to kind of talk this way. Genuinely. I grew up in Buckinghamshire, so I know that my accent can throw people off. People have a different judgment of me than who might actually be. But yeah, I just really wanted to talk about confidence, and maybe I should do a whole episode on this because I've been thinking about it a lot, having some friends that struggle with their confidence. And I guess maybe I should do a whole episode on it, but I really just wanted to remind people that you don't need confidence to do anything that you want to do. And I know that might be easier for me to say, but it's so true. Like, I didn't feel confident for years and years. I still struggle with it now. But what you really need to focus on is courage and bravery. And that kind of encompasses the fact that you might not feel confident, but you're going to kind of do it. Whether you're shaking and having a panic attack, these are all things that I dealt with at the beginning. You're going to do it anyway. You just need to have courage to take the first step. And I often like to remind people that, like, when they start to learn to drive, which is something that, you know, everyone gets nervous the first few lessons. Everyone is like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. Of course you don't know what you're doing because you've just started. But that isn't going to stop you from doing it and from learning and figuring it out. And I think creative confidence, or just confidence for creativity, should be approached that way. I see it so often that people have all these wonderful ideas, and the thing that's stopping them from getting to completion with these projects or putting themselves out there is their lack of confidence. And my rebuttal to that is, you do not need confidence. And I think focusing on that is the wrong direction. And confidence is going to come with time and dedication on a specific craft. So just focus on being brave and taking those steps when you don't feel confident is literally what everyone else is doing. No one is like, oh, I woke up today, I feel really confident, so I'm going to reach out to 100 people to, you know, put myself out there. Some people come to me and they're like, Natalie, you're just so confident. Yes, because I've been 7 years full-time as an illustrator, and then, like, I've got all the years before that both to back it up. I didn't feel confident at the beginning, even to the point when I became a D&AD judge. I didn't even tell anyone about it because I felt so imposter syndrome-y about it. I didn't talk about it on my Instagram. I didn't talk about it publicly anywhere because I truly thought someone was going to be like, what is she doing there? She can't do that. She's only been full-time for a year. I was only full-time as an illustrator for a year when I got that, and I felt so imposter syndrome-y about it. It was one of the most anxiety-inducing experiences I ever had because I felt like it came too early. I think it was such a prestigious thing, and I didn't understand why I got it. And that just shows how little confidence I had in my ability and my position and my voice and my work. But I was still doing it. I felt so unconfident every single goddamn day of me doing it. I got panic attacks every time I went to one of these events that I got invited to, but I knew for certain I couldn't say no when the opportunities came to me because I needed them for my dream. I think it's so important to remember you don't need to have confidence to take steps towards your dreams. You just need bravery. You just need courage. And that means jumping and taking those steps when you don't feel confident enough. And, you know, I think sometimes as well, my perspective is artists and creatives and change makers that feel unconfident. We need more of you. Like, we need more of you in this industry because that shows that you have a level of kind of awareness, of empathy, of maybe, you know, like me, not seeing yourself represented. I think there's so many egos in this industry and there's so many kind of bullies in this industry that we need more people that are humble, you know. We need more people that have a different perspective. We need more creatives. That is getting harder and harder now with the cost of living crisis and all these things that are happening with the recession. But we are losing out on these creatives that struggle with their self-confidence, and I think that makes for really interesting work as well, because the work is humble, the work is quiet, the work is reflective of that person. And I don't know, I just think we need so many more artists, not just like the loudest people in the room, which often now with the recession is the case, and I'm seeing is the case, and the people that are getting all the kind of flowers are like the loudest people in the room that kind of did grow up with a lot of privilege and did grow up being told that they were always enough, and didn't grow up in, they grew up very, very wealthy and privileged. We honestly, there is no tea, no shade. I just think that the working class creatives and the creatives that really struggle with confidence are the ones that we are losing, in huge amounts. And I think that's one of the most scariest and damaging things about 2024, and I really that is one of my kind of main points for this podcast. It's time to introduce our guest. Edie is an Irish artist, illustrator and freelance creative currently based in Brighton and Hove. With a bold style and a knack for humour, Edie uses their online platform to share experimental yet distinctive illustrations and video aimed at empowering, educating and informing others. Their work revolves around narratives stemming from personal experiences with mental health, chronic illness, and exploring her queer identity and relationship with her body as a disabled person. Always seeking inspiration, Edie finds it anywhere from galleries and museums to everyday conversation. I first met Edie at the Calm Creatives first event, and we had such a wonderful chat. I knew I wanted to get them on to the podcast. I happened to be in Brighton. I had my camera, but not my audio recording equipment, so please bear with me as I recorded it on my phone. Also, forgive me for the camera settings on my video. I'm still figuring out video stuff. But I really enjoyed the conversation. Hopefully you will too.
The alarm if the bus comes past and the window starts rattling.
Okay, that's fine. I can definitely hear something, huh?
Oh!
I was like, ooh. It's
Oh,
fine.
it's a pigeon. That's a wood pigeon.
I was like, because owls are nocturnal.
Yeah, we have wood pigeons in that big tree.
Oh.
Sometimes birds have fell and we've had to like rescue them and bring them to the... And then we get like a text when it dies, or like it gets released. We're like, your bird has died. Your bird has been released.
Also surrounded by all your amazing work, which is so nice to see in person.
If I were to describe my style to someone, I'd say it's quite bold. I use a lot of colour, or like none at all. I feel like that's what I do. I like black and white drawings, or I like to use like every inch of colour that I can find. I feel like it's quite graphic as well, very illustrative. Dare I say experimental? Because I feel like I don't tend to go in. I really try to intuitively draw, because I feel like I can't do it if I don't.
That's interesting.
I really can't draw if I plan it. Like I can point on that wall which ones I've planned and which ones I haven't planned, and the ones that I haven't planned I think are just better, personally.
When you say plan, do you mean like you come in with a specific idea, or you have something you want to achieve?
For me, planning is like you do like the base sketch, then you go over it, then you might like add the colour and then do the background and do a bit of detail here and like do it in like steps.
Okay.
Whenever I think of like my unplanned stuff, it's just like if I've had whether it's an idea I've just had swarming around or something I just want to do there and then. I always think it looks, I don't know if this makes sense, but yeah, it's just more organic, I think.
Yeah.
I feel like my style's really evolving in a way that it's like nearly going right back to the way it used to be. Because I studied fine art.
Oh.
So like,
where did you study?
In Preston. It's up near Manchester.
Oh.
I loved doing fine art. I loved it. It was really wacky.
So because I study graphic design, how would you describe what fine art is?
asked me this the other day, and I was like, couldn't tell you.
Well, shall I say what I would say?
Yeah, go on,
because
please.
I went to college, and I remember it was like graphic design and fine art on the same corridor.
Yeah.
And like the students would walk past each other, and we were just like totally different people. And the same, I suppose, in at university. But I would say graphic design has always been that it has a function.
Yeah.
And function has to be the priority. So whether that be like it is branding for a client, it's almost like it's all about the client. It's not about the designer.
Yeah.
It's not about what the designer wants or thinks, and sometimes it can be, but the whole point is it's to make the brand look however they are, and everything has to have a reason and a meaning, which has got to be connected to the brand. But fine art is like what I would say is like the total opposite reverse of that. And my friends that did fine art, they were like encouraged to express themselves,
pretty much,
and it was all like abstract and maybe didn't necessarily have to have a meaning. It could just be. Yeah,
it could just like exist as itself.
Yeah.
And then there was like a conversation on top of that conversation. It just kept going. Yeah, I don't really. Well, I know why I did fine art. It wasn't necessarily my choice. So like, I just like didn't think about going to uni. Like I just kind of like was doing my doodles in college. And I always knew I wanted to do art. So like, I just kind of did it and just kind of, I just like didn't think about it much. And I always liked the idea of being like an art therapist. And I loved illustrating as well. So I was just like, these are two things that I'm interested in. And I remember my college teacher said, you're going to go to uni and do fine art. And I was like, oh, that sounds cool. She was like, yeah, you'll love it. And I was like, cool, nice. Didn't do like any research into it. Because I was like, she knows best. You know what I mean? And then I got into the course that I wanted to do. And then I realised they offered illustration. I was like, oh, hang on a minute. I want to do illustration actually. And they were like, well, if you do fine art, you can do illustration in fine art.
Okay.
So
you could respond to like the projects with illustration.
Pretty much.
Yeah. I feel like your style started there, because you said you've come around now full circle.
It's weird. I have a real like love-hate relationship with like my styles. I'm sure like every artist does. Like
do.
I literally like scream. I'm like, I hate it so much.
No, I'm like, I hate it. That's what I do. It's very quiet, but it's like I hate my style.
And the comparison, I feel like, is so easy now, especially with Instagram.
So easy.
Like when I first started, I didn't get Instagram until like my third year in uni, so I had no comparison available to me. I just did my own thing.
Wait, you're much younger than me.
I'm 25.
Yeah. I'm
32.
Because the Instagram for illustration didn't really start till, like, I'd say 2004, 15.
Yeah.
Maybe after that.
I remember, like, seeing the odd person, but it was really specific, like, advocacy sort of, like, quotes and, like...
That would have been me.
That was, like,
I was
doing
that
I remember
stuff,
at the time.
Yeah. And it was very, like, also didn't have to be perfect. Like, Instagram was very, like, rough.
It was so nice.
Those filters that are just, like, all those colours. And
loved it.
Yeah.
A bit of, like, green...
Yeah. Yeah.
And like an iPhone 4.
Yeah.
It's hard because I'm an only child, so I grew up with like no kids in Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
As well, which my partner's always like, you're like 5 years behind us over here, and I'm like, yeah. No,
really?
I just feel like maybe like not anymore, but like
rude.
It's rude. I feel like growing up though, like
no, that makes sense.
It's just like a little bit.
Right, like the fashion and the
like obviously things don't come in on a boat and it's like 10 years after and it's like, oh, there you go, your first like bottle of ketchup or something, but
I get that with my South American family. I always say like they're like 20 years back behind, like in terms of everything comes to them a bit like later.
Pretty much like they're just getting like, you know, Uber. Into terms with like the gays, you know.
Yeah.
I used to do a lot of stuff connected to like my Irish history and like
really?
I used to love like learning about like the troubles in Northern Ireland. That's why a lot of like a lot of what I did in uni was about that and like making fun of it, and I used to love like satirical illustrations. I think that's where I found my love, like Viz comics and like
Oh, I don't know who
they're like adult. It's like an adult version of like the Beano nearly.
Oh.
And my dad used to always have them, and just any like Private Eye, you know, the way they have
Yes.
like, I loved stuff like that. And loved anything that like, if you know, you know, but if you like reading it, you're like, what is this? Oh, it's a fun picture book. Okay.
Yeah.
So I was really interested in like the relationship between like illustration and art, because I remember like on my course there was a lot of people that viewed illustration not as art.
Interesting.
So this is where I find like whenever I meet a graphic designer, I'm always like, ooh,
Yeah.
like,
because I studied graphic design.
yeah, it's like, it is such a different world, but it's also like, why do we hate each other so much? Like a lot of people, I feel like
I think the personality is different.
You
like,
think?
But I have loads of friends that I have loads of friends that did fine art, but then like that. Whenever I say that, it makes me feel like I'm still gonna say something shitty about them. You know, it's like when like someone who's racist says, "Well, I have loads of black friends." Like,
yeah, it's the same vibe, isn't it?
God. But it's just the person. It's very like all my friends that did fine art are very like hippies, like floofy. Like I don't know, like they float. I don't know. It's like they there's a freeness in their expression where they're like they're not thinking like commercially.
I had like this argument one day because I was saying how I really wanted to make products, get them on a trolley, go around town, video that. That was my end project. And the products would be like real colourful pieces. When you like look closer at them, they're actually like Irish propaganda. I just thought it was like funny, and it was like relevant at the time to like what I was looking into. And this person in my class was just like, oh, but like that's a commodity. And I was like, okay. And they were like, that's not like real artwork shouldn't be made into. I was like, are you joking? Have you ever been to a gift shop? Every museum I've ever been to has a gift shop that has a version of famous artwork made into something. Van Gogh. Yeah. Like, what do you mean? Like, I don't know, it used to just
really... And also for an artist to thrive, you have to make product.
It used to really confuse me, and then I started, like, making prints and stuff, and I think back then, or even in that world of fine art, in my experience, people really devalue, like, products.
Well, anything commercial, right?
And I'm like,
anything that's...
What do you mean?
Yeah. And also, I think it comes back to that thing that I hear so much about, that Instagram artist or artists that make a lot of work on Instagram are like, by the traditional art world, are seen as not as valuable as
like less than. Yeah, it's so silly.
It's so silly.
It's just a different platform.
It's pathetic.
Yeah, it is pathetic. I'm like, get a life. Disgusting.
Yeah, I know, it's just mad because it's like, it's to think that that the saddest thing about the Van Gogh story is that he never saw.
He doesn't know
that his work was like become, and like he was so broke. And you think if he was alive now, that he wouldn't be posting on Instagram, and then you would look over it and be like, oh, it's not real art because it's on Instagram like that.
Yeah,
it's madness.
Yeah, like a lot of people kind of like forget that if the artists who are on Instagram are actually artists in real life, they're not just like doing it just there on just like that, on that platform. It's so bizarre.
It's just a tool. And it's like, oh yeah, it's I don't know much about like the traditional art world, and I think that naivety has really helped me, and I just see kind of what I do as almost more like a, I guess, graphic designer, or like I've always kind of thought more commercially. But yeah, I hear horrible things about traditional art people and like the galleries and yeah, I just find that so strange.
Yeah, I used to sit and think like, I must be like stupid, or I used to think like that, you know, I shouldn't be on this course, or you know, why do I not appreciate this thing the way these people do? Like,
it's
my
just
reaction,
a different skill set.
It was weird. I got like a first, like
there
humble brag, but like I was just, you know, like,
that's great.
I came out of that course thinking, like, even though I'm not a fine artist, I'm so glad I did this, because it's given me such a interesting perspective on a part of the art world, and people don't expect me to say it. I think people assume I've done like graphic design or illustration or like or like a foundation in art and design or something, which makes total sense. And when I pull out like, oh no, I've got like a first class honours degree in fine art, and wrote my dissertation on like I was about like commodities and capitalism and like just like, and how like the white cube's so stupid, and it's like a safety blanket for
the
like,
white cube,
you know, like the concept of like the white cube, like a white gallery space. And like my tutor used to talk about it all the time, and we used to have seminars on it, and I used to just be like, I actually think it's kind of stupid to put art in a museum in this sense, because it's literally like a safety net. It's like wearing armbands. It's like you're not going to get an organic reaction out of someone going into a gallery, because I just think the person that's going into this gallery to look at this art is going to be someone who likes art, who's got the train there, who's looking for the room, that goes into the room. You're going to get a positive reaction, or you're going to get like a school trip of kids. I think if you want like a true reaction to art, which is a lot of the time what fine artists want, I'm like, why are you putting it in a museum? They want to shake things up. I'm like, this doesn't make sense to me. Like it just used to,
that's the goal, and that's the ultimate goal.
It's to like be a so I just kind of got to the end of that degree and felt as if like I have no desire in my life to be in a big fancy art gallery in that way. But some of the artists that like I really would look up to is like David Shirkley. Loved, because to me that's like he gets it. He's got a little bit of like, he knows whether it's like a truthful no, or he's in the know, or he does it because he, do you know?
I mean, I think a lot of artists that I like are very aware of like, and they have their own criticisms with their own industry. I think that's what makes someone, I think, really interesting. Where do you get your inspiration from?
That's such a good question.
Why are you laughing?
I don't know, 'cause these are things that I've been thinking about recently myself, just like, you know, like for writing artist statements and just like having conversations with people. Like people be like, what do you do? I'm an artist. Oh, what do you do?
So would you call yourself an artist?
Yeah. Like I would say I'm an artist, an illustrator. Like I go between the two. I would never say I'm a designer. Absolutely not. No.
And a fine artist?
You know what? Actually, yes, because I've got the degree.
There you go.
And I know that would piss some people off, so yeah. So, I guess like my inspiration just comes from literally anything. Like, it's changed so much. There's obviously things that I still look at for inspiration, but maybe not in the same way. So like, I feel like at the very start of my, like when I went to college to do art, I was super, super, super into drag queens. I love that I didn't know I was gay either. Do you know what I mean? That's so silly. I was like obsessed with the idea of like doing like portraits of drag queens, and I used to get like so excited like whenever like I would see a drag queen's like new outfit for like a thing. I loved like concepts of like fashion concepts, or like fashion and stuff like that. And like the female form. And like I used to do a lot of stuff around my diabetes. That was like a big reason I started Instagram, actually. So I used to love making like books and comics, and I love making like little like I'm such an illustrator, the way my brain thinks, like anything that I can like make a guide, love making a guide on like a special interest, or just like anything like that. So I guess,
what was the kind of work that you did on your diabetes?
I used to love just like illustrating my body, or like other people's bodies who had like medical devices, and just like them like moving with it, and like maybe in like a silly way, or think the ways you wouldn't think. So like I made a comic called Queer and Chronic, which or a zine called Queer and Chronic, which was just little tiny illustrations of me with my insulin pump, but it was in different, it wasn't necessarily just like me holding it or sitting with it. It was like glimpses into my life in a sense. So like when I'm like getting out of the shower and my I'm putting it back on and I've got like nothing to put it. I have to like hold it, like look silly.
Right.
Just I like finding the humour and the beauty in something and like mixing them together, I guess. Yeah.
Did you find that quite like did it change the way you viewed your own diabetes doing that project?
Yeah, I think this sounds so stupid, but in my
You have to say it now.
I think at the time I was like, oh, this is a niche. You know what I mean? I was like, it was really healing. It was really, really healing, and I would find other artists online that did similar things, and I felt really motivated. But I remember thinking like, oh wow, this could be like a niche. This could be something I could maybe like advocate, and then I don't know, it just kind of opened a window I never thought about, because I just did it so mindlessly, or can't say the word.
It was mindlessly,
but
it was also like instinct, like you said that word instinct before already today.
Like there's some things I haven't thought about too much, so like I guess I think I just thought, oh, maybe I can do something with this, like maybe I can work for like Diabetes UK, I could do like workshops. I just had like, my brain just started kind of being like, where can I go? Then I found like the world of like queer and like disabled artists, and I was like, oh my god, there's people like me, and that was so nice, because for ages, especially living in Northern Ireland, like I was miserable because I just couldn't, like nowhere wanted to take my art, no market wanted to have me at it. There was no opportunities where I lived. If I wanted an opportunity to drive to Belfast, and it was such a small pool, and there was no real like opportunities for what I wanted to do. It was very like, you've got fine art opportunities, you've got photography opportunities, and you've got graphic design opportunities. There was not much like illustration. I feel like there is now. Like I go back now and I'm like, wow.
Really?
Yeah, especially since COVID. Like Belfast is really like booming, I feel.
Oh,
it's really nice. Because I wasn't doing like landscapes and paintings of cows and not reading anyone that's doing cows at
It's
all.
like someone painting cows, listen to this.
Oh
like,
no! No, I love your style. And if it's a Highland cow, extra points. Like
I love the way you say cows as well.
Cows.
Cow. When you said pool, I was like, pool. Was that a hard decision to make? You to move? Was it scary? Were you scared? Were you just like, this is gonna
not
happen,
really, to be honest.
Did you come for uni because you went?
No, I feel like you'll love this, because this is like relevant to like what a lot of stuff you've been through. I was in a relationship for 5 years.
Here we go.
So like when I seen one of your videos, I was like, we need to have a chat.
We need to have a talk.
We need to have a chat.
Yeah.
And I won't go into like too much detail, but I just remember being like, I need to move away. We've broken up now. I literally every day of my life I'd think about it. I'd be like, I want to move to London or Brighton or Manchester or whatever.
Yeah.
And he didn't want to, and there was obviously other stuff going on, but I was an assistant for an artist in Belfast who was really like well known on TikTok.
Okay.
And they were from London and lived in London, so they got like the seed in my ear, because they were like, have you ever been to London? They were very like, why are you here?
Yeah.
And they would like tell me stories about London, and like they'd be like, oh, you'd love London, you'd love Brighton, you'd like, we'll take you, you'll come stay with us. And I remember thinking like, oh my god, I really want to do this. And then they were like, have you got a partner? And I was like, yeah, I've got a boyfriend. They were like, oh. And I remember like I remember being like, why? Like me like what do you mean? And they were like, oh, just like just asking. And then I think like we just were together for so many hours of the day, and we just had such good crack, and they really understood me, and they were really lovely. And I remember thinking like, oh god, I'm gonna have to move away. So I applied to be an art teacher, like do an art teaching course, because I was like, that's the safest option,
Right.
because I can get like a loan and like get into student housing. Did it for like 2 months. I was like, this is not for me, guys.
Where did you go?
Brighton Uni. To do PGCE.
Okay.
I can't even like remember what my actual like reason was to quit, But I just was like, there wasn't a lot of freedom with teaching, and I had taught a bit in Northern Ireland, and done like teaching assistants and youth groups and stuff, and I loved that, but I didn't like being in a secondary school. I actually found it quite triggering. I was like, well, I feel like I'm back at school.
So what happened after you did 2 months of that?
So I quit, and then I got a job in a sock shop in Brighton, and like literally helped like build that shop pretty much, because it was like it hadn't even opened yet, and did like all the window displays for them, because I was like, I'm a part-time artist, and the manager, love him so much, Al at the time, still like would be in touch with Al. He was like, what's brought you here? And I was like, I've just quit this, I'm an artist. And he was like, oh, would you do like window displays and maybe like branding? And I was like, yes. And like, as you know, your first branding project goes, there was obviously like a bit of issues here and there, but as a first like that was such a good decision to make, because I just worked part-time there.
Amazing.
And then tried my best at freelance and stuff, and then had my first market in like a pub up in Molscombe. I was like really proud of it, and just like kind of trucked on and tried my best to. I just applied for everything that I could think of. Did a workshop in a school in Brighton, and I think the thing that helped me the most, to be honest, was I would just like go to places. I literally would just be like,
amazing.
Oh, I'm gonna go down the lanes and pop into all the independent shops and just have a look about, and maybe if everyone's just holding the mug, I would just like chat to whoever and just like really push myself to network, and I genuinely got like really good jobs out of it.
That's amazing.
Like I got like a modelling job, and then I worked with like Moon Cup on something, and then like a lot of it was like voluntary, and some of it wasn't you know a lot of money, but it really then
grew your portfolio.
It pays for itself. I feel like I still have people to this day who message me and be like, oh, I got your name from this person. I'm like, oh my god,
yes,
good for them. They're spreading the word, you know. So
oh, that's amazing.
What's
your favourite project you've worked on so far?
Like so far, I'm probably proudest of my zine making and life drawing workshop that I did for FemFest, because I didn't think I'd get a space to do it, and I was so stressed. I like proper like stressed myself out for no reason. But I was really happy with how it went, and everyone was so lovely. And then like people were like, you know, like a few people bought my art, and like there's people that still support my art, and that felt really validating and really like, like I want to do that. Do I get it?
Oh my god, I see something on mine on the wall. I see that. That's fine.
Oh, is it the one that I got
greeting
from
card with the stars?
Yeah,
from the Calm Creatives.
Oh, I love that, and I've got your tote bag as well.
That was such a nice day.
That was a lovely day.
Yeah, and it was such a good vibe with the people that came. Like, I felt so like my heart was full.
Yeah, it was so nice.
Yeah, and that was, you know, actually, it's, I don't know whether I'll leave this, probably take this out, but that day of the Calm Creative, we both were just going through it. We like cried in the morning, just like hadn't slept, both of us. And then it was like all went so well, and it's like we were both like, I think we just needed that. And so to meet all of you guys that came, it was just like, just everything went so well and beautifully, and everyone really showed up on their own. Like there wasn't like a group.
So early, I was so
no, but it was great. It was great. And yeah, I just knew when we all sat down on the sofa that this was going to be. It
was a good vibe,
because everyone came with the intention that they really wanted to connect.
Yeah, I agree.
And no one knew each other.
No.
It was amazing. That was really good. We need to do another one.
I'm so glad I found it, because I remember like a week, maybe not even a week, it was literally like hours, maybe like a few days before, I said to my partner, I was like, oh, I wish there was like a creative retreat I could go on just for like a day, because I'm feeling really burnt out, and like I have no one to talk to, and I don't want to like message someone, because it's like I need to like be in a room with people. And then I found that, and I was like, book.
Amazing.
Yeah,
I mean, that's why we made it, because we felt exactly the same. We felt exactly the same, and I feel like there's so many of these creative retreats, but they're a whole week.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what if there's just one person that is just like not a vibe, and then you have to spend the whole week with them, or like they say something insensitive, or do you know what I mean? It's
also, I feel like a day can be more accessible as well,
Yeah.
especially if you've got like chronic fatigue or like
Yes.
a chronic condition, because I remember thinking like, oh god, a lot of these are a week
Yeah.
or they're away somewhere, and I'm like, I cannot be bothered to pack my entire like medical kit with me, which is literally like a massive box. I was like, oh, a day will do me. In Camden, never been. Let's get the train. Like, love it. It's
And
so
a day is
fun.
enough. Like, a day
I was
is a
knackered,
lot.
yeah.
What would you say has been, like, the hardest part, I think, about being an artist?
Imposter syndrome. 100%. Like, I constantly think I'm not doing enough.
Yeah.
Even whenever I've done, like, a 10-hour work day. And I think it comes with being freelance as well.
Yeah.
Because you work at different times of the day. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, I find, like, I really struggle with, like, being like, oh, I'm not doing enough, or this person's better than me, oh, that person's got that idea and they've done it better, or, like, this person's... I'm very bad with comparing myself, and comparison is the thief of joy, and it makes me angry. There you go,
It's
everybody.
Yeah. No, I think that's the hardest thing with Instagram, is that you can really see what everyone is up to and how busy everyone is, and
But it's not real.
yeah.
Like,
I mean,
it's not.
You're right. It's not real. But it feels real. When you're sat alone being like, oh, this person just got this other job and they've killed it and it looks great. And then sometimes I'll meet that person and they're like, oh, I had such a shitty time on that job because they treated me like shit and they didn't pay me right.
Yeah.
Or da-da-da-da-da.
All the that is exactly the conversations that I feel like I have with artists, is like, I'm like, oh, you're doing this thing, like, that looks amazing. They're like, oh, it's a bit like, you don't...
Have you ever had to go through small claims court?
Yeah.
Because I'm going to have to do that.
You're joking.
Yeah.
I've had to do it twice.
Because I've got $3,500. I've been waiting for this. I'm going to put this here.
You're joking.
Yeah. That last Christmas, I was like, I'm so excited to get this. I had already been waiting 6 months and emailing, and they were like, no, it's definitely coming. We're definitely this is happening. You'll be getting paid. Don't worry. It's going to come through before September. And then it was like, it's going to come through before November. And it's definitely going to come before Christmas. And like, I was feeling like, I'm going to stop. I'm going to do my Christmas shopping when I get paid. And it was just a stress. It was like a knot in my stomach the whole Christmas. And it got... I think that's one of the feelings that I went into this year with, of like, I don't want to do this anymore. Because that feeling I've always had every Christmas. Whether it's like a company paying me late or not paying me at all. I've never had to go through small claims court, but I'm obviously going to have to.
For that amount of money, it should be quite easy for you, because that's well over the 500.
And the workshops I did for them are still public on their website. So I get messages of people like, really enjoyed your workshop, and I will reply being like, that'd be great if they paid me, but I'm glad you enjoyed the workshop.
That's dreadful.
So I've just like started screenshotting these like conversations I'm having in my DMs and sending it to them.
I also think as well, like, whenever there's been times where I've not been paid, I instantly am like, oh, it's my fault. I've done something wrong, or like, I've not done something in time, or...
But even did you hear I said it? I said, oh, I did send my invoice late.
Yeah.
I was already blaming myself.
Like, that shouldn't... And then I was like, well, you can still get paid with an invoice.
Yeah.
Like, when you're like a queer, like, disabled artist, people expect you to like do a lot of voluntary stuff.
Really?
Oh yeah. And it really annoys me, because like, I have got, time and space at certain times of the year to do stuff voluntary, no issue with it.
Yeah.
But like, if I did every single thing I did as voluntary, or at like a really low cost, I'd be burnt out and have no money to live, and wouldn't even be able to do any of it. So I think whenever, like, it's always like big companies that are like, we really, really want to work with like a queer disabled person for the month of this month to celebrate this person and you, and you're so good and we love you so much, like, and then they're like, and then you like to say, oh, I'd love to do that, and they're like, we actually don't have any money, so are you willing to do 35 hours a week work for free?
Oh my god. Yeah.
Sometimes they find money though, have you noticed? If you're like, oh no, sorry, I won't do that, they'll be like, actually, go on then.
Look, we've found a pot of gold!
Yeah, they're like, actually, there you go, how's that? It's like, are you joking? I also find the thing as well is like,
what do you want?
It's actually insane. And like, there's a job that like I did once, and there was like 10 other people doing, like, there was like 10 illustrators, like because like, as a company, they're actually really ethical. They're just so unorganized.
This is what I mean. It's the system within.
So unorganized.
And it's like the pay.
The people.
Yeah.
The ethics, brilliant.
Right.
The organization, crap.
Yeah.
Crap. Awful.
Yeah. So I worked. I've said this story so many times on the podcast, but I've worked with this company, and I remember my friend, she was on the mood board, and they were like, yeah, she's definitely on board. I was like, great. Texted her. I was like, what are you charging? Because I always do that. I never know what to charge, so I like ask people.
Yeah, I never know.
And she was like, I'm charging $1,000. I was like, $1,000? Okay, I mean, that's what I'm going to charge. They were like, okay, we'll give you 800. And I was like, I know, I'm definitely getting her $1,000 because she told me that's what they accepted. I was like, this is bullshit. And then I got so up in my arms about it. I went to an event, an illustrator event, and there was like 10 other illustrators on the same project. We all did the same work. So I go around being like, can you believe that I got paid £800 and she got paid $1,000 and this is so stupid, like, it's not fair, like, what did you get paid? And I went around on asking everyone, and I found out that I was like I got paid the second most, and everyone else underneath got paid. And one of my close friends, Sophie, got paid like £100 or £80. And I was like, you shouldn't have done it.
Anytime I get work is, who are they following that I can go and ask a question if they've worked with them, or who can I text? Because it's like,
oh, that's a good
I feel like I think about the opportunities chat that a lot of illustrators are in. Like, we need to just create that space that we can very casually just network, because like, we're all freelance. None of us work in a room with co-workers, so we need to like create like a little space that's literally like our coffee room, where we can just be like, look,
be open, so we can help each other.
Like, ask me anything. Like, I just don't.
Yeah.
Like,
but some people are quite cagey, because I've had it
really cagey.
Yes.
Like, no, I'm like, what are you trying to hide? Like,
and I even had someone who gonna keep having to share what I would price for jobs. I'm gonna have to start taking a cut, and I was like, sorry, I thought we were like, I just thought that was ridiculous, because I helped them out so much when they got started, and I was like, this attitude of this caginess, it only helps the people that are the most privileged.
Oh, 100%.
The ones that are having those conversations from their mummy and daddy who own businesses and know how to charge. And
me with a mum that owns a business.
Yes, maybe.
No.
But like, do you know what I mean? And then it's like the working class, or the artists that didn't go the traditional route through university are the ones that are like my friend Sophie, just took this job for £80 with a huge international conglomerate company, because they were like, well, I guess I need it for exposure. And like, it's like, it's hurting people who were, and so I get really annoyed. But I learned early on to just slide in people's DMs and like ask about money, and I do it all the time.
I do it too. I'm just kind of like, like, I was chatting to my friend yesterday, and we were talking very openly about, they just like messaged me and were like, can I ask how much this was? And I was like, yeah, I don't care. It's like, I'm happy to share why I know things. Like, you know, I'm so grateful that I've got a parent that has been self-employed since she was like 18.
Amazing.
She's a hairdresser, and she used to teach hair and beauty, and like, my mum's always been like, oh, like, self-employment's really good if you can like, you know, work at it and stuff. So like, I really don't mind sharing my knowledge and my experience of like having a parent that is self-employed, because like, not a lot of artists have that. Most artists I talk to like have parents that don't support them, that think that they should go do something else, and like, I have had a lot of privilege chucked at me. Like, uni, you know what to do. Like, I knew to go network. Not a lot of people wouldn't even think to like, oh, I need to go out and network. Like, I knew that I needed to do that, and that in itself, so like, is such a privilege to know that, I guess. Yeah.
The same in office, like traditional companies, they're like encouraged to almost threaten to not talk about their paycheck with each other. Because it's like, you, I think I remember a friend of mine finding out that she was essentially doing a job that was higher than the people below her, like she was their manager, and she was getting charged, like, she was getting paid less than her male counterparts who were like doing a less, and she only found out because they all went to the pub, and she asked, she was like, what's her salary? And then she ended up leaving the job, because they were like, why are you paying these people that are technically in my team below me paying less? Anyway, it's so important to just have those conversations about money, I think, because it just the like culture of secrecy, it just damages us. Like, it hurts artists.
It really, really does. Like, at the end,
it's the ones that are the most less, I guess, privileged.
And it breaks my heart whenever I see like new faces like at markets and stuff, and like they have the best work in the world. I'm like, oh my god, this is like the most amazing thing ever. Like, how long did this take you? And they're like, oh, it took me like 10 years to make. And they're like, it's £8.
Yeah,
I'm like, no. Like,
I
it's
know.
so
Yeah, and I met someone at the DIY art market who they came all the way from Germany or Berlin, and they were like, it's shocking the price of the products here. Like, they're so undervaluing themselves. Like, in Berlin, people tend to charge like for unique handmade things. And they were like, well, the moment one person has a stall that they're doing a certain price, you do feel like, well, I guess that's, you know what I mean? Like, it makes you question your own choice, I think.
It's hard as well, especially if like, because I try to make a lot of my stuff really affordable.
Yes.
Because I've always been of the belief like everyone should have access to art.
Yeah.
But then it's also finding that balance between products that are really accessible and then products that are like a bit more expensive, and then it's so hard to find the...
Yes.
Because like I would love to start selling my paintings more, because I'm really enjoying like painting and stuff like that, and it's like, where the hell would I even start? You know, like with a painting, because that's such a... That's a field I've never thought about, because in my head I'm like, how would you market that at a market? You know, like a painting, or like a big painting where...
It might have to just be on your social media that someone can buy it like from there.
Yeah.
And then just almost like, I've seen people do like auctions and stuff on their Instagram. Cool. But yeah, I think the value of... I think that's also one of the things with Instagram, is that because it's making it easier for people to kind of get into it and sell their products. They're going not the traditional way, or not through a gallery. I feel like people are undervaluing their work so much.
Yeah, 100%.
I know that I learned so much from other people being open, and like artists older than me, like being so like...
And I can name the artists that I'm like, you literally deserve a place in like the hall of like artist fame, because you're such a good person.
Who's that?
Well, there's an artist in Belfast called Danny Simpson.
Oh. And
she's a mural artist, and she's Australian, and she lives in Northern Ireland. I can't remember where. And she had no reason to be so like open, nice with me. You know, really established, like does all the murals in Belfast, like really, really talented. And like my iPad broke like years ago when I was just getting into it, and she was like, oh, just come up to my studio in Belfast and you can use mine. Oh. And like I was like, oh wow, like, cause like that's unheard of. And then she would be like, oh, do you need any like to try any paper? Like, try these, like this is where I get these, like tell me where she gets stuff. Like, she wasn't gatekeepy. Yeah. And she wasn't putting fear into me as well. This is another thing I've noticed, is sometimes people are helpful, but they try to like put fear into you while they're being helpful. Yeah. Like, they'll be like, oh, do you want to try this? Just be careful you don't do da-da-da-da-da, because when I did da-da-da-da-da, this happened. And then like you're like, oh, I'll never do that. Like, they, you know, like they like put fear into you, like, oh, I tried this, it'll never work for you. You know, like that sort of... She was just so lovely, and I would literally like sit and cry to her and be like, I don't know what to do, I'm so stressed. And she was like, you gotta find your niche, you'll find your niche, and then you'll get somewhere. And like, she's just like lovely. Amazing. So Danny's up there. Okay. And then the artist I used to work for, Jack the illustrator on TikTok, they were so lovely, like so like, just use what you want. Do what you want, that's cool. Oh, could you help? Like, just really involved and nice. Always shared my work, which I think is a big one. Like, some people like just don't share. I know. I'm like, just share, just like... Yep. Always share my stuff. And I'm trying to think who else. Oh, Ocean, oh my god. Ocean. You know, Conscious Euphoria. Maybe? I'm so terrible with names, I'll be honest. They love beige. Bees? No, beige. I thought I heard beige, but I was like, maybe bees. Their work's like trans bodies, and it's like celebrating trans and queerness.
Oh, okay, maybe I've heard of them.
And like, I remember I just started like chatting to Ocean, and I was like, oh, I really like Ocean, and started to become friends, and they've just been so helpful. Like, and I just am so grateful for people being helpful.
Yeah.
Because it really, like, they took so much stress off me, and I don't think they realised how much, like, they showed me how they organise their admin and their content. Like, they're so organised.
Oh God, you gotta help me with that, because I need a whole rejig, actually.
I'm terrible. I did it for like a week.
How do they do that admin?
They use Notion, you know, the
app.
I
use Notion. I haven't
I don't like it. It like I liked it for like a week, but
right.
it's too customizable for me.
I would get a lot of comments that I overshared about my process or anything, because I would have other artists say like, well, aren't you scared that if people see how you work that they'll copy it? And I'm like, you're thinking too much. Like,
yeah, I agree.
That energy you're spending on protecting this thing, if someone wants to copy my work, they can just be like, oh, Natalie Byrne's illustrations, I'll just trace it. They could do it. They like, and I think
if you want, protect it.
Yeah. I'm a bit paranoid.
Yeah, paranoid's good. I feel like I used to be like that though. I think it's because I was in with the wrong crowd for a bit, and then I would be like, oh, you're so right, I can't tell anyone about. Like, I went through a period where I wouldn't even tell someone what printer I used, because I was so it wasn't for long.
That's the energy.
But like for like a few months of my life, I was like, God, I'm so scared, and then I was like, what the hell am I doing? This is so stupid.
Yeah.
And then completely changed.
You know what? It's an insecurity, because it's
100%.
like, yeah, someone can copy everything you've done, but they're not going to know what you do next, or they're not. You're also going to have a timestamp of who did the idea first, you know, because you put it on Instagram. But I think it's an insecurity of them not believing what they do enough. And also, I think it can also come from like whoever mentored you, whoever taught you, whatever, like you said, group you're in has such an impact on how you see that stuff.
I've only ever had it from fine artists. I've never had it from like illustrators, really. I
know that I will say that the ones in my the like illustrators and graphic designers I've come across that are like that, it's very few and far between. Yeah. But they are also people who maybe spent more energy thinking about that than maybe their work, or like, do you know what I mean?
100%. Because I feel like I've done that, where I've thought too much about what other people are doing, and then went, hang on a minute, I'm not going to get anywhere. Yeah. Because I'm literally just worried, and I'm like, this person doesn't care what I'm doing. Yeah. Like, why am I definitely used to be like that, and then forgot that, like, no, there's like a lot of value in doing my own thing. Yeah. Like, it gets good results. Yeah. And I enjoy the process more. Yeah. 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 No, I really relate to that on both sides, because I can see it whenever I meet and like an artist, and I'm like, please don't do. You know, I want people to be part of the community, and I know collabs. What happened to collabing? I feel like it doesn't happen anymore. I know. I don't know. I feel like community over competition. But yeah, I'm a big believer in that, and that's why I wanted to bring back my podcast as an excuse to like just have these conversations and to like meet face to face, because I think I'd always be like, yeah, we should go for coffee sometime or something, and it would never happen. But like now I'm like, with the podcast, it's gonna happen. I'm that person that if you say that to me, I'll message you and be like, I know, like, do you want to go? Yeah, yeah, I'm like, here. Yeah, and I'm outside. I'm outside your house with binoculars. Yes, I can see you right now. One final thing before I go. What would you tell your younger self? Take imperfect action. Oh, yeah, 100%. Oh, love it. Oh, I heard it on a podcast like a few months ago. Okay, and I was like, you know when you hear something, imperfect action, and you're like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. And this woman talked about it, who was an artist. It was like an artist. I can't even remember the podcast, but I really needed to hear it, because I was so like anxious just about every move I was making. Yeah. You ever get that? Yes. And I remember like, and you want everything to be perfect. You want it, and you want everything so bad that you want it to be right. And I just remember thinking like, oh, I have all these ideas and all these projects, and like I was like, I'm just half-assing them. Yeah. And then my partner was like, no, you're not. You're putting a lot of work in. Like, you put a lot of work in. I was like, I don't feel like I'm doing enough. And he was like, you just think that because you're not appreciating your best efforts. And I was like, you're so right. Like, that really, like, I don't know, it just really hit home. And I think if I could go back right now and look at myself at uni, or whenever I first started going freelance, which was in like 2021 maybe, I would have been like, just stop listening to people, because you're an artist, and the beauty of being an artist is that you get to decide what you want to make, how you want to make it, where you want to make it, who you want to make it with.
And I feel like the imperfect stuff is like the
it's the best, and it's like the shit that I post at like 3 a.m.
Yeah.
That's like a half done drawing. It's always the thing that I get people messaging me about. Can you make this a print?
Yeah.
Like, I love this. Like, I did one recently of my body in different poses with my medical devices. It was just like something I did at the waiting room at the hospital, and it got like hundreds of likes, and a few people messaged me and wanted it as prints. And I just remember thinking, that is so being an artist vibes, that, because it's like I didn't think about it and I just did it, and that is imperfect action, I guess. Just like doing it and not.
The pressure's off though.
Pressure's off. I love that phrase so much, because it like just like I'm trying to run a market at the minute. I said I am running a market called Dyke Mart, and it's on Saturday this week.
Oh wait, I know that.
Yeah.
You run that?
Yeah, that's my poster.
Of course.
So like, but I'm like so unorganized.
I see that on your Instagram. Such a.
Yeah, someone the other day was like, "Are you going to this market?" And I was like, "I'm the organizer, babe." And they were like, "Stop!" And I was like, "Yeah." They were like, "You haven't like made people aware that you're the organizer." And I'm like, "It's not about me though. It's just something I want to do for like the community." But I'm so.
When is it? This Saturday. Sorry, let me look at this poster. When is this? I love that logo so much. I remember that's why I clicked on it, because I was like, "Oh, I love this logo."
I'm just going to run to the legs.
Yeah.
I've realised that I've held my weight in. I can't get up!
I think we're wrapping up anyway.
Going places, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, cool.
Oh, you say it so much cooler than me.
Going places.
Going places.
Going places.